Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is the Parks and Rec Committee meeting. We'll get started. We'll call the meeting to order at 8:40 a.m. And has everyone had a chance to read over the approval of the minutes from April 8th?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any corrections or deletions?
No, ma'am.
No.
So minutes will stand approved as they are. Today we have a presentation from our Bear Creek property presentation. So Gary, I will let you introduce what we are about to see.
Okay. Actually, Ron, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ron, would you introduce Katie and Nick and kind of give them a little intro, and then they could get started on their presentation?
Terrific. Yes, Katie Pace and Nick Kilberg from the Southern Conservation Trust. That particular trust owns what used to be the Bear Creek Golf Course, right off of Country Manor Road. And I'd say probably about 2 years ago or over that, we started having some conversations with them about the potentials that of that property would have. They developed several different properties. I don't want to steal too much from them, but they have several different parks that they run for Fayette and Fayette County, and I'm just very excited. They're very good people to work with. So we went through a process. We brought this potential to you, Gary, and then to you and Mark, and then the request that Mark had was that we bring this forward to this group today. I've actually had a little bit of a conversation with Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Carthen about this, but I see that Katie and Nick are both on here, and so I will let them, I think they've already sent you a presentation, so I will let them walk through what they have brought forward for discussion today. And thank you.
Thank you, Ron, and thank y'all for speaking with us this morning. We'll keep it to about 10 minutes. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but I've got a presentation for you here. I think I can share my screen with you. I think. Well, there we go. Okay, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to give you a quick background about who we are so that you understand where we're coming from and why we're wanting to develop a park in Douglas County. So we have 12 full-time staff. We're based in Fayetteville, and we work throughout 7 states in the Southeast. It's our job to elevate nature and anything that falls underneath that. And we focus on land conservation, wildlife and natural resource protection, enhancing green space for passive recreation, environmental education, and environmental stewardship. We currently have 6 public nature areas, all in Fayette County, that total about 1,200 acres that are open to the public. Half of those we own and run, and the other half of those we operate for either the city of Fayetteville, the city of Peachtree City, or the Fayette County School Board. We offer a lot of different programs at all of our parks, and we would offer a lot of these programs at the Douglas County Park as well. So hiking, biking, paddling, archery, tree climbing, bird watching, summer camps, which this year's probably not going to be a summer camp year, water testing, scout projects, pollinator gardens, honeybee projects, birdhouse building, reptile programs, and lots of other programs. So just last year, we impacted 5,000 students just here in Fayette County. We currently have 10 other parks currently in development. So on some of these, we're working with the city of Fayetteville. We've got one in Cherokee County, North Carolina, We've got 2 over in Henry County that we're working on that are privately owned properties. We've got 1 in Atlanta that's actually a weird property connected to a cemetery. And then we've got 1 up in North Georgia, and then obviously the Bear Creek area over in Douglas County. This is just really to show you a couple photographs of our existing parks. So we have everything from boardwalks that are the primary of that particular park to nice open green space, water testing areas, everything from hiking, biking. We do have a paddling program as well. And then we also conserve 46,000 acres throughout 7 states in the Southeast. So I'll let Nick jump in on what we're looking at doing at the Bear Creek property.
All right. Hopefully your screen stays up while I'm talking. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, yeah, so thank you all for letting us talk about your beautiful over in Douglas today. If you take a look at the slides, is everybody this property at all?
Yeah.
Yes, Nick.
Yeah.
Well, I am. Yeah.
Okay, well, great. It's very, very pretty property. It's got some really nice water creeks and things that run through it. It is a fairly steep property. There's a lot of ups and downs, which makes for excellent hiking, biking, walking, running, that kind of thing. It's when you have a change in topography and it's not all super flat. Let's see. There's a fair amount of different natural communities on this property, which is neat. What I mean by that is you'll have pine stands, hardwood stands. There's spots that have been cleared. There's a really nice wetland in the northern part of the property. A lot of beaver activity and things like that. The great thing about this property is if you guys look at the drawing here, that red line, that is all paved golf cart paths that are already existing. So in order to get this property up and open to the public, really all it takes is to clean those paths off and repair some of the bridges that are a little worse for wear just because the property hasn't been used and they haven't been maintained. There's about right around 5 miles of existing paths and things through there already. So yeah, it's really exciting. With fairly minimal work, we could get this property open to the public and provide a really neat area for Douglas County. As you can see here, I talked about most of this stuff already. Really, for kind of a phase 1 of just getting it, like I said, we just want to clear the golf cart paths, and that would open it to hiking, jogging, walking, running, biking, birding, nature photography. There are some fishing opportunities in there, and maybe some future additions. We might be able to add disc golf, equestrian trails, do some stream restoration. I haven't been able to get in there and test the stream temperature yet. It definitely has kind of an Appalachian feel to it, which would be neat if that was to maybe introduce some trout after some stream restoration. But like I said, I haven't tested the temperature yet. Since there were already fairways cleared, we need to do some pine thinning in some of those stands, but we could also do some pollinator garden planting and things like that. So really, to get it open and going, repairing the existing golf cart paths, repair the bridges, thin pine stands, get the created and mark the trail. We do need to install a gravel parking area at the end of Country Manor Drive, and then we would hire a full-time park manager before we open. This property does have some weird entrances off a gas line easement. And we do have folks that get in there with four-wheel drive trucks and actually most recently two-wheel drive trucks that overestimated the capability of their vehicle. But after we get this part, if we open this up to the public, a lot of times that'll take care of the trespassing issues and people doing foolish stuff. But having that full-time park manager hired before we open would definitely be beneficial.
This is one of our staff actually, and some of our board, and I believe those are Ron's legs out there enjoying the property. It's just an absolutely breathtaking property. So basically, we're not asking you for money. So just to reassure you, we're not asking for money from the county. Everything that we offer in Fayette County, we offer without charging the county or the cities that we work with anything. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, so everything is funded through grants and individual donations, and our conservation work is where a large portion of our revenue comes from. So basically what we're asking for y'all is pretty simple. We'd like written letters of support when we go to apply for some of these large grants. Obviously we would want to talk to Mr. Dukes to make sure that we weren't trying to apply for anything that y'all are already applying for other parks in your county. We would love it if y'all would sign a resolution of support of the park development. It makes it easier for us to get grants and funding. And Douglas County has already waived the property taxes. So, that right there was a huge step, because other than general upkeep, right now we don't have any costs while we're building up grant money for the property. Rooker Construction was doing some development in Douglas County. And the process had to abolish a small historical site that had some very weird language on the books. And so because of that, they actually made a $50,000 donation to us that we have restricted specifically for this park. So we do already have some funding that would start the funding for the park. Well, what questions do y'all have?
Thank you. So, Katie, that sounds exciting, because I'm a Parks and Trails girl, and I ran on that. And so this park is actually in my district. So I'm really excited about hearing about this and seeing it come to fruition. I haven't had a chance to go down in the park like Ron did, but just standing at the top where the gate is, it's absolutely gorgeous to see, the topography. Can you tell me, what is the time frame that you're looking at trying to get this up and going?
Nick, what are you thinking on time frame?
Well, we have a couple other parks that we need to get finished up first. But really, as soon as everything gets approved and we're ready to go, it'll take long to open up, to get the cart paths and stuff cleared off and repaired. So I would think it would be feasible, maybe mid-2021.
Our only issue right now is someone that bought a small contiguous parcel that's landlocked within our property. And you're obviously very familiar with that landlocked piece of property. So we've had some complications with that person, and I think it would be difficult. It's going to be difficult to open the park with that right there. We can do it, but it's going to be an eyesore. So I'm not sure when that's going to play out. Ron, I don't know if you've heard anything else recently. So we'll see what happens there. But right now the plan would just be to put the parking lot at the end of that road. Even though the property that man owns was the original parking lot for the golf course. So it's just a weird thing with that one little property right there. Okay. But I mean, realistically, we'd love to move on this and have it open sometime in 2021. We've got a couple of grants lined up right now that we'd like to apply for, because we're a nonprofit, very low overhead, and things are pretty easy to do. So, once we have a little bit more funding, just to hire a full-time staff member that would manage it, because we don't want to open it until we have somebody that's going to be checking on it daily, because we already know we have some issues on that property. Yeah, we would love to get it open soon.
Okay. And it would stay with you all. You all would manage it. It would stay with Conservation Southern Trust. Okay. Southern Conservation. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, we have the resources to just continue to maintain it after we open it. So basically, what we would want to provide is just a benefit to the county that y'all could promote as another public nature area that y'all have.
Okay. Got you. I'll turn it over to Director Dukes for questions.
Okay. It sounds good. We probably need to, of course, discuss it among ourselves. And a few things, I'm not sure if the county would have any liability, but we probably need to run that by our safety, Matt Laverne, our safety director for the county. And then after discussion, we'll get back with you folks and see if we can move forward.
Yeah, and Gary, just so you're aware, because we have so many public areas right now, we do carry a very, very large liability policy on all of our properties. So we are very heavily insured for everything that we own and manage. And then the properties that we own, our staff patrol them. But we have been lucky here in Fayette County, and we've made some friends with some county marshals and some other deputies that just like to go out on the properties, and we even let them train their dogs out on the properties and do other training exercises. So it's been a good way to support the sheriff's department while making sure the property is safe at the same time.
I'm glad you brought that up, Katie. One of the things that I've had quite a few constituents ask me about a dog park. Would that be possible at the Bear Creek, carving an office space for those who have pets or dogs that they would like to bring?
I mean, we definitely have the space to do that. It would a little bit just because we need to we would have to install fencing and stuff like that to make sure everybody's pets are safe. I have not looked at the map to see where it would fit real well. Probably somehow we work it in at the top of the hill. So yeah, I mean, it's something that could happen.
Okay.
My list. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely want to be able to garner support for it. So the more support we can garner and push for you, if we decide to do it, the better off we are. And so yeah, but like Gary said, we'll talk among ourselves and we'll get back to you. And does Mark have I guess the information to contact you and possibly your attorney that handles things for you all, just in case he wants to talk to them, or our legal?
I'm not sure if he does, but I'll send him over all of our contact information and our attorney.
Okay, perfect.
Can I jump in?
Oh, Commissioner Mitchell.
I made it. My apologies. Quick question. I just got one quick question. My apologies for lateness and just some technology issues. But so this whole layout, the makeup of the park, possibly dog park and everything else, will we be engaged with that whole makeup, or ask for things that would probably be of an interest for those that our constituents be looking for, like the dog park that was mentioned by Coach Chief?
Yeah, so part of what we do in Fayette County is kind of community surveys to see what the things are that they really want in the area. But I mean, we would love to work with y'all to make sure that it's a park that people are going to use. So we want to make sure that if we're going to open a 300 and some acre nature area, that people actually want to go there.
Correct. So we will be engaged through that whole process and what that would look like. So, I mean, would the approval come through us or through the entire team of all of us kind of having dialogue with the whole makeup? Or that's something that we have to agree to or not agree to? What if we disagree that the dog park is needed and you guys disagree that it does or not? How does that work?
It's different here in Fayette County. because we've been here since 1993, and so we have a different working relationship, and we own the properties, so we basically just go ahead and do what we need to do. But we'll definitely have a lot of dialogue back and forth with y'all. And I don't know if we really actually need y'all's approval. We want y'all's approval. So because of that, we'd definitely like to come back and forth with y'all and talk through the process and talk through it with Mr. Dukes to make sure that we are offering everything on that property that falls within our mission, but that also is what people actually want to enjoy. Because if you don't have walkers, then there's no point in us opening the park. I think that's something we want to take into consideration, and we definitely want to do a community survey to see all the people that are in that close proximity to the potential nature area, if they would actually use it.
Understood. And then I'm assuming Gary and Mark will need to get with legal to make sure that all the legal things are all done to make sure that that part is correct. But the only concern, not really concerned, but the thought process is to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're all doing something that the citizens of Douglas County want to engage more than anything. Because like you said, if he doesn't have the walker, it doesn't make any sense to have this huge park that nobody attends.
Right, definitely. And we don't want to put money into something that no one's going to use. So we definitely want to work with y'all there and make sure that we're doing exactly what needs to be done.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, that's all I've got, and I guess we'll do further discussion on our end and see kind of which way we go. But we appreciate this, and thank you guys for considering Douglas County as a placement of something of this caliber, because I think it's going to be a huge benefit to all of us.
Yeah. So really, the only thing legal would have to review would be the resolution, and that there wouldn't be much review on that. So Ron, what about zoning? Is it already zoned properly, or would they have to go through rezoning?
No, we can make this happen. I mean, this is, it was an existing golf course before, so yeah, it's fine, Mark.
Okay, so zoning is fine. So really, the only thing they're asking for, is my understanding, is the resolution.
Yeah, and that's just because it'll make it a lot easier for grants.
Yeah, and if you could send me a copy of that, we could go ahead and have legal review it. Or a copy of an example one you've used before, and we can rewrite it. It's no big deal.
And one last question. You spoke about a piece of property that's kind of in the middle of all of this. What is that plan? I mean, how are you planning to work around? I mean, or do we visit them to try to, kind of take that piece of property? I don't know how many acres or how many, what's there, and what kind of effect it's going to have on this whole makeup, though.
I believe that the county has actually already taken the gentleman to court. Ron,
yes, it's working through a process right now, but with the coronavirus, the courts have kind of been slower than even normal. The issue is we own the road. So he's landlocked by a road that we own, that we currently have a gate on so that we're not having trespassing. So because of that, literally, we would just open our gate, and at the end of that road that we own, we would put a parking lot in. So they wouldn't actually even have to go through his property. They would just have to see his very, very poor double wide that's been vandalized. So basically, it would just be more of an eyesore, not an issue.
Oh, got you. Okay.
It's around 10 acres. Actually, that's the ideal spot for a dog park. Just throwing that out there. Because it's
Got you.
Yeah. And we've actually offered to buy the property from him, but he wanted me to pay 100 times what he paid. So, it might be worth the county seeing if he likes y'all better, if y'all could get it. I don't know. It's a very small piece of property, and like I said, it's landlocked. So it's not like he can do anything with it anyway, but he's not very happy with us for not giving him access. So
got it.
We really don't need to be discussing land acquisition in this meeting.
Okay,
this is a
fine.
public meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. No. We'll end it there. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all, and let us know if you have any other questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Mitchell, I'll let you have it since you're joining us.
You're doing a wonderful job. You can go right ahead if you prefer. I mean, I don't know exactly where you guys are, so if you want to keep it moving, go right ahead.
Well, they were actually our first agenda item, but I think we have the next one, next presentation. I'll let Gary take over from here.
Okay.
All right, Gary.
Actually, the third item. This is a request for a permit to hold a pizza, beer, and jazz event at Deer Lick Park. We discussed it briefly before, so we wanted to bring Mr. Christopher Bryant in and to give a little presentation and to give you some information on what he plans to do. Mr. Bryant, are you with us?
I am. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you with us. Would you mind giving the committee a brief outline of what you would like to do and when?
Sure. And I would definitely keep it as brief as possible. But what I would like to do is also discuss the process that I've experienced as a result of this effort. First and foremost, the desire to produce pizza, beer, and jazz in Douglas County came specifically as a result of experiencing the county during the course of the September Saturday event. And we contributed a large venue there, or what we term as a mobile venue. I think we had 7,000 square feet. And the event in and of itself was great. It was well attended. Got a chance to meet a lot of really fine people in Douglas County, not only constituents or citizens, but also some of the political bodies there as well. In the course of that, we were told about the 150th anniversary that should have taken, what actually does take place this year, but the series of events that would have been done in conjunction with that anniversary. Pizza, Beer, and Jazz is one of those events that we decided to add to the fray in order to celebrate and acknowledge Douglas, the 150th anniversary as well. So that was our motive for doing so. Having been in event promotions for over 15 years, we know the necessity of starting early. So what I would like to do is go through some of the bullet points of what we've experienced as a result of this process. On January the 16th, I initiated a call to Tracy Ivy. We had a discussion, not only verbally, but also email exchanges. And during the course of that conversation, Tracy was very professional. She was very professional. She was very informative and further inspiring of the effort. So on the 23rd, I sent to her a 4-page detailed description of the execution plans and so forth, understanding that things of this nature may not happen quite frequently in Douglas County, and specifically understanding that we were eyeing a venue that may not have always been conducive to such uses. So we made sure the plan that was sent was detailed. It was a 4-page plan. I believe Ms. Red stated that that plan had been received and circulated through the committee. Not, I can assure to get that to you guys hereafter. But that plan was submitted on the 23rd. On February the 3rd, Tracy informed me that she needed to speak with you, sir, Mr. Dukes, pertaining to all the details of the plans. So as that took place, I also at that point decided to pursue the process of the alcohol licensing through your occupational tax department. In addition to that, getting the special event permit and so forth. By February the 12th, I informed Tracy that those processes were complete in terms of submitting the special event permit, submitting the request for the alcohol license. Now, mind you, we're getting close to 1 month from the date of our initial discussion. At that point, in order to really determine the feasibility of this, pricing is important. We need to know, what does it cost to book the venue? What are any financial requirements beyond that base cost that I will assume the county has or should already have that on record. A month into the process, I was not able to get a price point of what does it basically cost to book the venue, nor have I been able to secure any contractual information pertaining to the venue itself. So at this point, we still have nothing. There has been no progress whatsoever as it relates to support from the county in this effort. Now, what did occur during a February the 21st email exchange. Once again, making an effort to find out what were the basic cost principles or the cost schedule. I did not receive that information, but what I did receive from Tracy was apparently after a conversation with you, Mr. Dukes, Tracy wanted to find out what were the ticket prices, what was the sponsorship fee, what was the vending fee, any and all expenses and financial matters pertaining to the event. Having done events for 15 to 20 years, at least 10 years relevant to municipalities, we had never experienced a process where we can't get the price point of a venue, but a county or municipality that has no vested interest, no investment whatsoever in the production is inquiring about the financial matters of the event. That in and of itself was disturbing.
Okay, Mr. Bryant.
Yes.
We could get you all that information because it's already available. So I'm not sure what we charge, Gary, but occupational tax or planning and zoning, Ron's on here. So any costs associated with that is already on the forms. Everything's already there. So Tracy may not be been aware of it, but Gary, y'all have that information.
Mark, actually, for certain items, there is a set cost, but there's not a set cost for special events like concerts or that type thing. That's why we wanted Mr. Christopher Bryant to come to the meeting so he could give us an overview of what he's going to do, and this committee would set a price. That's why we've invited him. We do not have a special event for concerts and events of this nature on the books because they're all different. They're different in size. They're different in venue, that type thing.
Again, when we participated in September Saturdays, we did that based upon the request from a commissioner. In my conversation with Commissioner Robinson pertaining to this very process, to my understanding, a set price is a set price. It is not predicated on who the organizing body is or what the purpose is. That is to my understanding. So if there's no price whatsoever, then that is something we should have been told at the very beginning. If there is a price, whether it's for a Little League football team or for a picnic, whatever that price is, unless there's an alternate price already there, then that set price probably should set the course. If that isn't the case, then that's another thing that we should have been told 4 months ago. We're 4 months into a process and we have absolutely nothing. I know how effective this body can be because with the Bear Creek Park, you guys have been amazingly effective at advancing that effort. I understand it's a massive effort, but which will make it even more challenging. This is something that is a lot more simple, but we've gained absolutely zero ground. So I do take that as an issue, particularly given the risk factors of events. So what I would like to see is progress in that regard. And if for some reason the county is not welcoming of an effort that is being done to celebrate the county, then that needs to be stated up front, because what we can't do is continue to face a deliberate slowdown or which increases the risk factors. So what we need is a matter of fact discussion to determine if we can move forward with this, because I'm sure this process doesn't have to be this complicated. It really doesn't. So what I would like to do is try to advance the effort or make a very swift, definitive determination that we'll seek elsewhere. I think that's why we've invited you here, so the commissioners and the county administrator can hear exactly. I haven't seen the 4-page document that you said you've sent. So we would like to hear exactly what the plans are and what you plan to do at the event. Okay. Then I would definitely go over that. Tracy stated via email that was sent to you, and the question that she asked thereafter was a result of that. However, if you're stating that you don't realize what the plans are, I'm more than willing to share that. The title of the event is Pizza, Beer, and Jazz, and the title implies exactly what it would consist of. So it is a food-based element, obviously a music-based element, as well as alcohol. and non-alcoholic beverages as well. We targeted the date of August the 15th for the event from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. We landed on Deer Park as a result of the not only the parking, but also the open space that is conducive to this type of event. We took a look at the football field, and after having a discussion with Tracy pertaining to the execution points, we did send over that document, and with one of the key things in mind was understanding the field or the green space and how that needs to be preserved and protected. So what was clearly stated in the document, which I will ensure that's also Teresa's Red stated this will be circulated as well 2 weeks ago. But what was clearly stated was that a mobile stage would not be used, but stage risers would be used because that does not affect the grass. It was also stated that we would have a series of contiguous tents that would be used for patrons, for ticket holders, and perhaps one tented area for county officials. The food trucks that would be there would not be allowed to park on the field area at all. They would actually be placed outside of the fence on asphalt. We understand there's limited restroom facilities at that location, so we would actually have a mobile restroom unit to be staged at the location. As it relates to the food element, obviously this is pizza, so pizza companies are imperative. So we will work with a pizza franchisee, preferably one that's based in Douglas County, but we have to start this effort if that's going to be the case. A pizza franchisee, preferably with a mobile unit as well. Many major pizza companies, of course, to have mobile kitchens. They do events on a fairly regular basis. So one of those mobile kitchens would be there to service the food component. Same thing. I'm not sure if we would have a beer truck there. I'm not sure if that type of volume or capacity is necessary. Working with distributors, there are so many ways now to dispense beer that you can be a lot more creative. So there may be just a tented area that consists of a bar, and beer is canned beer. Canned beer is distributed. So a beer truck may not be necessary, but any vehicle related units will be placed on asphalt. On the grass area, in terms beyond what's already there, our equipment would only consist of stage risers, tents, light towers, because if it's a concert event, we prefer to use light that has less wattage for ambiance purposes than the lights that are there now. So light towers will be brought out, but those are on wheels and they're relatively light in weight. There is a cigar component to this, and as indicated in the document, there with the cigar tent, we have 2 layers of flooring, once again, to protect the field. Number one, the base layer is plywood. So the entire floor is plywood in and of itself. And then there's a plastic layer, an outdoor, some people call it a garage deck or a garage tile. There's a second flooring that goes above the plywood flooring to further protect the grass. So once again, even if the ashes drop, nothing strikes the grass area. So all those precautions were taken into effect and explained in the document. And we also included a site, well, not a site plan, because we don't know exactly how we will map out the area yet. We need to get to that point. But what we did include was a image of the type of contiguous tents that will be placed on the field. And of course, there will also be green space available for people to bring lawn chairs as well. So that's it from a general standpoint. I can always answer particular specific questions and make sure that finally this document gets circulated, since perhaps it hasn't, regardless of what we were told earlier.
Any questions, commissioners?
So I absolutely love the idea and the concept.
Thank you.
I apologize if you felt as though you weren't getting what you needed. I pretty sure we've had special events before. Don't know how we did the pricing, but this may be unique, given as though, I've not heard of us having beer, cigar, and pizza, but it's a great concept. So kudos to you for coming up with that. However, in the midst of COVID-19, are you still preparing to go forward with this?
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because I'm assuming in order for you to actually, do well with this event, and of course you want to be successful, you got to have a couple of hundred people. So are you still planning in the midst of that to
That's certainly a fair question. With COVID-19, the interesting thing is that we have to hope for the best and plan for the worst. Obviously, events that are taking place sooner than that are already being canceled. It's easy to cancel an event. It's quite easy to cancel an event. The difficult part is the production element. So let's go to what justifies cancellation first. This event doesn't happen without partnerships, without vending partnerships, without restaurant partnerships. It just doesn't happen. So there are other forces at play here as it relates to that ultimate decision making. Just like the state of Georgia had to open, even though things are not as we would prefer for them to be from a safety standpoint or from a health standpoint. So I think the litmus test is here now. Here we are in May. If our circumstance as a state, as it relates to COVID-19, does not get better as we progress towards August the 15th, then absolutely, particularly within 30 to 45 days of that time frame, a decision has to be made. And if that decision needs to be made to cancel the event, we have no qualms about doing that. Of course, you want to be careful about how much you invest prior to that time. So again, canceling an event is easy. The challenging part is producing an event and the time restraints that are contained within that. One final thing, as it relates to the cost factors of the event, we have or the capacity. It's a first time event, and we submitted this before COVID-19 was even thought of, before we even knew it existed. Even then, our numbers were relatively conservative, of 200 to 500. Again, a minimum 200, maximum of 500. So that field, obviously, from a music standpoint, can hold far beyond even 500, which was our maximum estimation. Now, with those other adverse conditions being possible, if the numbers needed to be reduced to 200 or 300, you can actually still do that and remain socially distant within that area, particularly with lawn chairs. Now, that does remove some coziness. It removes some emptiness. It's not consistent with the theme and the vision of the event. So I don't even know if that would be appealing enough for us to move forward. But looking at worst case scenarios and contingencies, if events are alive and well at that time, yet social distancing still may be alive and well as well, there is a way to coexist those two factors.
Okay. So your request today is you just need a cost from us, the county, the Parks and Rec, so that you can push the ball forward.
Well, yes, that's absolutely important. And if I can achieve just one more thing as a result of this call, it would be pertaining to the alcohol licensing permit. Now, not just because this event is entitled Pizza, Beer, and Jazz, but alcohol is important to any major event. And obviously with the alcohol licensing portion, you have to, once again, start that process in advance. I think it was February 11th where I was delivered the application to occupational tax several months ago. Mm-hmm. And by now, with any municipality that we work with, after you deliver the application, within 30 days, many times less, the municipality submits the local permit. We then take that permit, elevate it to Department of Revenue, and get the actual license. Having that license helps to solidify deals with distributors, with distillers, and so forth. Mm-hmm. February 11th, we're about, once again, 4 months away, and we still don't have it. I followed up on a few occasions with Tammy Cardin, inquiring about that. And the last email that I received from her stated that the alcohol permit is only granted once all departments have signed off on everything else. Well, that's a defeated process, because Number one, I don't know if that's a written policy or if that's a Tammy Carding policy, and that needs to be determined. But having submitted that application by hand on February the 11th, and not having it now is just not acceptable. There's no harm in the city, in the county issuing the permit. There's no harm in that, because if the event, number one, we've already cleared all of the vetting processes, the background checks, all the things necessary for the Department of Revenue to grant the actual license, but they will not do that until there's a local permit. Mm-hmm. So fine, that process goes through. If the event is canceled, we've had events that we've had to cancel before. The permit is just nullified. Permits are for 1 day, 1 location. It cannot be adjusted after issued. However, until it's issued, no can deals be made with respect to the alcohol component. So it defeats the purpose.
Okay.
So that is a huge issue that needs to be addressed, and I need an answer pertaining to that.
Mr. Bryant, we can handle all this outside of this meeting, but just to let you know what the process is. So there's multiple departments that have to sign off on a temporary event permit. And if all those departments do not sign off, then the temporary permit is not issued. So there's no need in us giving you an alcohol license if you don't have a permit.
Well, sir,
but we can work through all that. I'll be glad to help move that along quickly as
Mr.
as
Bryant,
possible.
Mark, Mr. Bryant.
Yeah,
okay, I understand your frustration, and I too, as Commissioner Carthen just stated, do apologize that the process kind of went the way it went.
Sure.
Let's see, can we kind of move forward, because I'm excited too, as current Commissioner Carthen just stated, about this possible event. But there is a process,
sure.
And the process may have come into problems, but for whatever reason, let's see, can we kind of get this thing moving forward? So let's see, can we at least get you what you need, but do understand in this pandemic that we're in, things could be totally different, but it's not our call to worry about that. That'll be up to you and your organization as to how you end up with that. However, but I do have a couple of questions, one of which, our parks are smoke-free, correct, Gary and Mark?
We have smoking areas.
Oh, smoking areas, okay.
Designated smoking areas in the parks.
Okay, right. And also in this whole permitting process with the food trucks, would there not be also the health department kind of engaged in this whole process, correct?
Yes, that's correct. They absolutely would. And I have those documents as well. Right. Now, because the health department normally has to do an on-site inspection of those, that can't be completed until you get really close to the event. But because we will be working with established franchisees that own mobile trailers, they're accustomed to this process. So I don't see that as a hang up at all.
I got you. And I'm only just doing it, stating out loud so we can all understand that there's also some additional things that you'll have to do, even with granting this permission to do that you're trying to do, though.
Absolutely.
So with that, though, and you did spoke of the capacity of anywhere between 200 to 500 in capacity that you're looking at.
Yes.
And we're going to be hopeful, thinking that by August that we won't be in this Corona layout. We'll be in a wholly different mindset that everybody can now hang out and do what they want to do. But I think this will probably be something that's going to hinder this particular layout. But I'm not gonna speak on that. I'll just leave that kind of to the experts at the CDC office. Last but not least, is there any way that we can kind of get Mr. Dyer, am I correct? Mr. Bryant, is there any way that we can get Mr. Bryant kind of what he needs to move forward? Meaning, what is the cost of using the park, what that looks like? And I think we as a committee, I don't see that being an issue as to where we are with it, but what is it that it costs to use the park to put on this type of an event, and then kind of get him either moving in what direction, either we will accept and invite this type of an event, or no, we can't do it because of whatever it is. Because I think it has been a long time for us to be sitting here still talking about something that started the process back in early January, and here we are in May, and still trying to, and we're still trying to have this kind of discussion. But Gary, I do appreciate you bringing, as we did talk about This is a special event and it needs to come to
Right.
the committee. But all that has happened in the last month or so, it's kind of put all this on hold. And not to point our finger at our staff, but a lot has happened in between this time frame that has thrown everything off, have derailed a whole lot of things. So, but I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm only trying to say, let's see, can we get him what he needs? Once we have, our final discussion as to what direction we go.
Right. After we've heard the presentation now,
Yes.
I think the two things the recreation department are involved in is one, approving the alcohol at the park. That's
Okay.
why we brought it to the committee.
Understood.
First, the alcohol has to be approved.
Yes.
Second, the price for the event. Those are the only two things that the recreation department or the recreation committee, as I see it, are involved with.
Okay.
Then it goes to occupational tax, and he has to get the serving permit. He has to have someone
Yes.
to serve the alcohol. He has to go to the sheriff's department. They have to furnish security depending on how many people are there. They have to have one officer for every so many people that is at the event. So our job, the way I see it, commissioners and Mark, is just to approve the alcohol if we want alcohol in the park at the event. And that's the reason we brought it before the committee, and then to decide on a price for the event. Because once again, when we have concerts, we don't have a set price, because frankly, I don't remember a concert in a park since I've been here. We might have had one years ago. I can't remember, but this is a special event that needs to be brought before the Recreation Oversight Committee. That's why we're here.
Okay, gotcha, Gary. And let me also add though, and in setting this price and whatever this is not determined based on the mere fact of how many people or who is he bringing, it's all about what the cost of the use of this park on this particular date, this particular time, and that will be the price based on the mere fact of not how many tickets he sell. Because at one time, this is kind of the information I got maybe a few weeks or so ago. How many people is going to be there? What is his ticket prices and all this, that, and the other? I'm saying that's not of our concern. Our concern is what does it cost to lease the park, and what usage can he get out of this particular event? And now going back to the smoking side of this thing, if there's a designated smoking side of this, it needs to be identified to say you can't smoke on the field. You got to smoke over here in the corner, in the back, in the dark, whatever that is. Outside of that, I think we should be, at that point, it's out of our hands to let it move forward and let everybody else take their role, take on their responsibility of how many deputies he'll need, how many health department requests that he'll need, and occupational tax, what he'll pay, and so on. But
that's exactly why I brought it to the committee.
Good.
So those things be determined. It's not important to me how many tickets are sold or how much they're sold for. The only thing I want to make sure is cleanup. Or is the organization going to be responsible for cleanup, traffic control? If we don't have any problem, all those we have to consider from our park patrol standpoint as well. Is there going to be involvement from us, asking us to do park patrol, traffic flow, any cleanup afterwards? Those are the items I'm interested in, not ticket sales.
Okay.
So Gary, usually the traffic control and the security is handled by the sheriff's department. So that will be through the temporary permit from planning and zoning.
That's correct.
Okay. So I mean, outside of that, I think, and I don't want to, hold Mr. Bryant any longer, but outside of that, can we just at least, I guess, after, I mean, I'm assuming, Mr. Bryant, are you good with what your discussion that you've had thus far, or so we can kind of discuss it, so we can kind of move, or what? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Of what I just heard, I'm a little ambivalent about a unique price, a unique pricing for the field. I am ambivalent about that because that's a budget factor. And given the fact that I've been shopping at the Douglas County store for 4 months and nothing has a price tag on it, and all of a sudden now there is conversations about setting a price that is a little disconcerting. So I would like to see what that price is.
Okay, fair enough.
That would help a lot. And in addition to that, as I stated, well, getting the price would address the first need for moving forward. And also, again, the alcohol licensing. If after getting the licensing, if for some reason the other departments doesn't check off, then that's a defeated purpose. I mean, the license can't be used anyway. That takes care of itself. By use of our affiliate tax exempt, an alcohol license is going to cost me $50. So at worst, I've lost $50 if the other departments don't check off for some inexplicable reason. So I don't think that should hold up this process.
Okay.
So as far as the process with planning and zoning, Mr. Bryant, I've been in discussion with the planning and zoning director. So we're working on it to see what the status is, because there's a lot of departments you have to get approval from. And I don't think you have any of them yet. So we're going to work on that. We'll see if we can expedite it. And the alcohol permit is part of that process. So you won't have to pay that until everybody's signed off on it. But that includes sheriff's department, fire department, environmental health, planning and zoning. There's a lot of departments that have to go through that.
Okay.
So I'll see if I can expedite that. And I'm already in discussion with him now.
Great, because it's important to know what I haven't accomplished isn't because I haven't made the effort, it's because the county hasn't responded. Again, we started this effort early January, and had the county responded, had I received pricing, had I received information pertaining, even getting the health insurance information took over 45 days when it's at the very same building that I went to drop off the alcohol license permit, and that wasn't communicated to me. So if the county can line up the processes regarding what is required, then we can certainly fulfill that as we have with other municipalities.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bryant. I just want to say you may be our test case scenario, and that's kind of what it sounds like. So so if you will just be patient with us just a little while longer. Mark Till, he has good staff, so he knows how to push things through. So I'm fairly confident to say you will have an answer from us within the next 48 hours. If you'll give us definitely until Friday, you'll have what you need. And again, we apologize for this. It is not, customary. Douglas County is open for business. We definitely want your business. Even in the midst of this, if you're willing to take the risk, we're willing to, assist you any way we can. So Parks and Rec, we will give you a price. Gary Dukes, the director, is there, what is the price for just renting out the ball field in itself?
We rent out to football teams.
Right.
It depends on whether you're just day hours or night hours, with or without lights. I think it's like 10 or 12. I'll have to check, Commissioner Carson. I think it's like $10 or $12 an hour without lights, and maybe $20 an hour with lights.
Okay.
That's my recollection.
Okay.
If you're just, 14.
And yes, this is for a team, so let's don't make that statement as though this is what it will cost to do an event, a concert style event. So I don't want to give a misconception that it will be $20 an hour using those numbers. So I don't want Mr. Bryant to kind of get the misconception that that's what he will be looking at. Not to say that you've been looking at anything more, but I think we ask of this type of a process, Mr. Bryant, from our staff to do it this way, to bring it back to us, because we haven't had this type of an event before, pizza and beer. So this is kind of new, and with the alcohol side of it, added a little spin to it, because if it was just pizza, different from pizza and beer, adds a new spin to it. So I promise you, we'll have some, as Commissioner Carthen stated, we'll have you an answer within 48 hours, I would think. Now, don't know what the answer will be. And
I do have one question. I don't mean to cut you off, Commissioner. No kids are allowed at this event, right?
No kids are allowed. Absolutely. As you guys consider those variables, there shouldn't be an assumption that this is a cash haul. Every event has a risk factor. It's never been done before. We're not talking about national grade artists. We're talking about local, at most regional artists. So the cost, the risk factors are there. So we're adopting, we are taking on those risk factors as well in the midst of possibly doing this with the COVID-19 considerations. So I want that to be made clear as well, because there should be no assumption that this is a guaranteed cash haul. It may be a guaranteed debt.
Mr. Bryant, I don't think any of us are trying to calculate what your risks are, how much cash you'll profit from this. That's not what we're here for.
Sure.
We just need to understand what it is that you're wanting to do.
Okay.
And is the park big enough? If you were talking about 1,000 plus people, can that park accommodate you? Where we would place, as we just heard from those who will be smoking from the cigar side of things. You know, those that are drinking, you're going to be responsible for assuring that you won't have any underage individuals out there, you know, kind of getting caught up in the moment. The onus will be on you. So we're not trying to figure out how much you'll make and what. That's why I said we're not worried about the ticket price. We're not worried about how many tickets you sell and all that kind of good stuff. We just need to decide on is this an event that we would like to welcome to Douglas County in our parks, and will it be safe having this type of event in our park, period. And if it fits, fine. If the cost factors are what they are based on staff, they'll tell us what that is, and then we'll just kind of move forward. But within 48 hours, give us a chance to at least, and again, my apologies for the time it took to get to this point. My apologies. But give the staff a chance to at least get back with you within 48 hours and give you some kind of feedback as to what the cost of the park is. And they'll check off the other things that we spoke about. But the cost should be there, at least one of those items that you'll need to know whether or not you want to move forward or not. And that'll be on you.
That's perfectly
Is that fair enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty, guys.
Thank you.
And I don't mean to push you guys along, but you know we guys were getting close to the meeting. So thank you, Mr. Bryant. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye.
All right. So okay, guys, where are we now on the agenda?
We're on number 4. We moved to number 4.
Okay. You want to kick off number 4, Gary? What that's all about?
This is we had it on the last meeting, the equipment, the 2 ice machines and the 2 commercial refrigerators that we were going to purchase for Bill Arp and Fair Play. And you asked us to go back and get a couple of more quotes.
That's correct.
So we did that. And Teresa, you can remind me, I think the low quote was $7,573. And I think that was actually correct me if I'm wrong, Teresa, the second lowest quote. It was $1 higher than the lower quote, but it was a local vendor. Is that correct?
Separate for the ice machines and the refrigerators, but K-Tom overall for all equipment was cheaper. The Douglasville vendor Potates was $1.24 cheaper on the cooler, but then they charge a freight fee of like $300, which put them over. So K-Tom is still the cheapest and $2,000 less than Integrated's bid.
Okay, and that's a local.
Y'all did good.
Yeah, and that's a local vendor.
Potates was not. It's K-Tom. They are not a local vendor, but we have dealt with them before, and the fire department has used them. They are just the least expensive, but the same product.
Okay, so we recommend. We would recommend that we go with the low quote of $7,573, which is $2,000 less than the original quote from Integrated.
But I will say, I'm sorry, Integrated's bid did lump sum an installation fee with their cost, and there was no breakdown. So we don't really know exactly what their cost was for the product versus the product, but there's still no charge for freight from K-Tom, and we will be doing the installation.
Right.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
So you don't know, if I'm hearing you correctly, you don't know whether or not the other guys would added up the installation side of it in their cost or not.
Right. We
The
don't.
contractor for those buildings, Trey, is going to, that was included in the price to go ahead and put the connections and all that together for the machines. So
Okay.
that should already be included in the contract.
So the one we're speaking of, all that's included or not included? So I'm a little confused here.
The buildings should be ready to accommodate the machines.
But for them installing and installing that equipment, is that part of this price or not? Or that's an addition to?
That's not a part of this price, but that should be handled by Trey, the contractor. The refrigeration system, in my opinion, I'm not a refrigeration guy, but I believe all you do for the refrigerators are plug them in. The ice machine, of course, will have to have a water supply, but he is putting that in the construction when he builds the building for the ice machine.
Okay.
In other words, the building should be ready to accept both the pieces of equipment.
And we, the Parks and Rec, are we the ones installing it, or is the contractor installing it?
We'll have it delivered. We'll take it to the building.
Okay.
The Parks and Recreation Department.
Okay. Got you.
I mean, I want you. Is your question? Is your
Yeah,
question answered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I make the recommendation. Motion to accept the recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And would all identify by saying yes, by stating their name and yes?
Yes, Tarenia Carthen.
Yes, Gary Dukes.
Yes, Mark Teal.
Chad Griffin.
I heard you guys. Okay, and that will be a yes for Commissioner Mitchell. So that stands approved, and that item, we'll move it on to the board. And Mark will add that to the item. I mean, not today, but we'll add it on. Or, yeah, I don't think we should add it today, Mark. What's your take on this?
Okay, it won't be today.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't want to push it through. So let's put that on our next agenda item.
We have plenty of time. They won't be ready for them for several months.
Good. Okay. All righty. What's next on the agenda? We got this.
The next is we have a Johnson Control service agreement.
Okay.
That Johnson Control handles our air handler down at the. It's a renewable contract. We do it every year.
Okay.
And they take care of our air handler down at the Aquatic Center. They change the belts, they grease the belts, change the filters, that sort of thing. And
so this is just maintenance.
Just maintenance of the system, yes, sir.
And I just have one question, Gary. Is the price consistent with what they've charged us before, or did they go up?
Chad, could you answer that for me?
Good morning, guys.
The
price did go up just a little from last year. That is because we added the maintenance of the boiler this year. It wasn't on the contract for last year, but this year it will be on the contract. So with the older boiler and the new boiler both installed now, I think it would be a great idea, to have the boilers on the contract.
Okay. All right.
How much more though from last year to now?
I want to say about $1,500 more, but I'm not sure of the old contract. I can't exactly remember.
Very important to have those boilers serviced.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So we're looking at a total cost of what? Director Dukes, do you know the total cost, or Teresa?
You have the price, Chad?
Yes, so that's $7,500. You wait 1 second, I can give you the exact number. It's $7,573.87.
Okay. And this is within the budget that you already have?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
And for that cost, I think, Chad, don't they actually change the filters and the belts? Aren't they included?
Yes,
Many
all that.
per year.
Yes, sir. All that's included.
So they furnish the belts that pull the wheels for the air handler, and the filters that they have to change out in the facility.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that's as needed though, as they coming through annually or every
Yes.
6 months.
They come through quarterly, yes.
Okay,
Quarterly.
gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Okay. You have any other questions, Commissioner Mitchell?
No, all is good.
All right. So I recommend that the contract that
Johnson Control.
Johnson Controls, I recommend that the contract with Johnson Controls be renewed.
Second.
Are there any discussion? And Chad, would you give me those numbers once again so we can add it to the record? 7,005. Go ahead.
7,573.87 cents.
Got it.
Got it.
With that said price, again, are there any other discussions?
No.
If you would identify by saying yay or nay by stating your name and your up or down vote on this.
Tarenia Carthan, yes.
Gary Dukes, yes.
Mark Teal, yes.
Chad Rippon, yes.
And Commissioner Mitchell, yes. Unanimous decision, so we'll move forward. It stand approved. Anything else, Gary? Because I'm really pushing us here.
No, so that completes the agenda items that I have.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of is we probably need at some point to come to a solution on the price.
Right.
That we talked about with Mr. Bryant,
Right.
and to all agree that we would allow him to serve alcohol in the park. That's the reason we brought it forward.
Absolutely. And thank you, Gary, for bringing it forward. And my apologies for those who are viewing and watching this, but we asked that question to bring it to this committee to verify these types of situations, to identify them and to move them forward or not. So I don't know, does anybody have any comments on whether or not they have a problem with Mr. Bryant and the pizza, beer, and jazz in Douglas County? And that was at Deer Lick, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
He's requested the football field,
Mhm.
and I don't have a problem with it at all. But other than what I would with any event, is he going to cut off the ticketing? Maybe the sheriff would automatically cut off the cars. Commissioner Mitchell, I think you've been involved with
Yes.
certain activities where people didn't cut it off, and then you could have a traffic jam all the way out to 92 highway, people trying to get in. But I assume the sheriff would take care of all that.
So there's a lot of questions are answered through the temporary permit process.
Good.
So a lot of things we discussed is answered on that side. As far as what Parks and Rec would charge, this is just my opinion. I would suggest that we just charge him what our cost. So, whatever it costs for our personnel, how many personnel we need, if we're picking up the trash or if he's picking up the trash for the lights. So I would suggest we would charge him whatever our cost is, and then research what other counties and cities do, so that the next time we have an event, then we would know, okay, here's what they charge. That way we're not under the gun trying to say, okay, we're going to charge $500 or $5,000 or $150. I would suggest just charging him whatever our cost is.
And we'll come back with this committee down the road and work on a policy that will cover what that would be. But I think right now, because we promised him that in 48 hours, we'll have him a number of what that is. And Mark, that's not a bad number to start from, to kind of say, look at what it's going to cost us staffing it if we have to staff it.
Yeah.
What it would cost if we got to clean it up and prep for it. And all those kind of numbers, and come up with what those numbers are, and then kind of move from there. But I think we need to have something to him within 48 hours, if not sooner.
Yeah.
So we can
And that might, we can definitely give him Parks and Rec numbers within 48 hours, but that temporary event permit, so fire marshal is involved, environmental health, sheriff's office, he may not have those numbers in 48 hours.
No, but that number has nothing to do with the number we promised him.
Right.
And that was the numbers through what it would cost to use the Parks and Rec facilities.
Right.
at the football field, and it needs to be spelled out kind of what that is. To include, it needs to spell out if you mentioned smoking, and I thought we were smoke free totally, but I know it had designated areas. But where that is, if you decide to use that as the park, are we using the entire park, or are we just only using the football field? So it needs to be broken out to make sure that he clearly understands it cost him $1.50 or $500.50 to use this portion of the parks, and that's it.
So would you like me to proceed with the hourly rate that we would charge a team, or?
My suggestion would be you and Mark get together, and you and Mark come up with the numbers and why, and if you'll just share it with us, with the committee, as to what they are, hopefully within 48 hours, so everybody will know kind of what you're gonna relay to him, because he's gonna probably come back and have conversations with myself and or Terrenium.
Okay. Mark and I'll get together.
Yeah. So you guys kind of, put something together that's fair, and then we'll work on a policy down the road as to what this looks like in the future. And we probably should break out, if you're just doing pizza, it's these numbers, or you're looking at pizza and alcohol or spirits, whatever that is this number, what you'll encounter at whatever park. So.
But down the line, if we could just get him a price today, because I feel as though he's our experiment, and we don't want to, set a precedent. We definitely want to make sure that we get this out the way, and we'll work on the back end with Mark and.
Yes. So let's get this done within 48 hours, and then
we can do that.
Is that
Actually,
okay?
I think in 14 years, this is the first request we've had to do alcohol. We've had some events by one of the commissioners at for the animal control, raising money for that. But as far as a citizen coming forward and wanting a permit to serve alcohol, I believe this is first.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, guys, I don't mean to push this on. We got about 4 minutes. Anybody else got anything to bring forth to this committee?
A quick question. I sent out the documents for the agenda with the email, but I can share my screen and show documents during meetings if that is the preference of the committee. Just to know if that's what you mean. And we did have Mr. Bryant's overview of his event that went out with the packets.
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can share those documents as the meeting goes on if you ever want to view them on the screen.
I think that's fine. Yes, that you should.
Okay. All right.
Next time, that's fine to do that. If somebody have a presentation of some sort and you've got the documents so we can kind of see it on the screen, that would be great.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, guys.
Okay.
All right. Thank you again, guys. This meeting is stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye.